Hello and welcome everybody. Tonight we are doing the retrospective for Freewheel Station Season 1. 25, you know my format, 25 episodes to a season, and then we do a retrospective, and we're here to do that retrospective. We'll talk about everything that kind of happened in Season 1, the ups, the downs, the funny stuff, the crazy stuff, the twists, the turns, what Kib's favorite, what color Kib's favorite socks are, all that kind of stuff. So I think I kind of want to start off by maybe kind of explaining what season one was kind of a very ambitious for me. This whole campaign, as far as it goes, I had the idea that I wanted to do a campaign where the player characters ran a space station. Um, but I knew I was going to have to do some big things. So season one's been kind of about establishing the characters, establishing the space station itself, Freewheel Station, and establishing the setting too, and many of the NPCs, things like the Drage system, the Durelium Frontier, which we kind of like expanded into some of the power players that are coming that you can kind of expect to see, and we kind of set up, the idea that the character of who the characters were and why they mattered and gave them a few things to do, and you kind of got to see the startup, the early beginnings, we're taking over this mess and we're building it up and we're developing a reputation, and we've got people we like and people we don't like, and I think one of the biggest things, obviously we had to establish the characters, the protagonists here. And if only you guys could roll this well in an actual combat.
None of
Um,
those are combat rolls.
in an actual, you, when it actually counts.
Hey,
But
I've made some good
the
rolls this season,
you have,
but I've made a
but
lot of ones, and I'm okay about that. It makes me giggle every time.
but um, I can expand upon sort of what my expansion and of sort of my setting up of the sort of setting and stuff. But I think it'd be probably the best thing to do is kind of talk to the players, our stars of our show, about their characters and how they establishing those characters, what they had in mind and where they've kind of gone this season and where they see their characters going and you know what interesting things, maybe if their character were to have a theme song, what would it be? I'm gonna kind of turn this over to I kind of want to talk to, first of all, I kind of want to talk to Scott. Scott and I talked quite a bit about like Kib's character coming in. And, why don't you kind of like tell our viewers at home what that process was like coming up with Kib and, coming up with his introduction and where you kind of started from on establishing this character.
I don't know, my brain was like, okay, we got this cool little rat dude that was on the space station. All right. And he fixed the space station. So my brain was like, okay, how do we come up with a story? Well, everybody else was kind of like estranged with their family. Kib came from, he was pre established on the space station. I was just thought that would be cool. He has been there all the while before it was overtaken by somebody else. And then my brain just started flowing with ideas that, hey, I used to serve the previous dude, and then we got into an argument about something, and it was like, okay, so for you to be arguing with me, I'm gonna put you in the Hootie whatever it's called, the brig for a bit, and you can chill there. Well, that's then when the overthrow of the station happened, and the rest of the party found him in the prison of the space station. And it was just kind of a cool idea in my head.
I, re- I remember talking about the setup to bring Kib in, and I remember like one of the things that struck me was Brian and Chris started off as the other two players here, and they both were going to know each other from their previous engagements. But Scott, I remember saying, I I don't know them. My character has no previous connection or history with them, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. Um, because that kind of gives a little bit of extra layer and some possible um, that gives some possible layers for why the characters kind of have to get to know each other. And I remember we kind of tossed around several ideas of how your character was going to come onto the station as being like, as being somebody who wasn't known to to the other characters coming on. And I remember when we workshopped out the idea of having already been there and being in the brig, just thinking, wow, that'll make for a really cool scene. For those of you who don't know the lore, the basic setup, it's tied a lot to Philip Defoe and her background, but the the Grimbuckle Syndicate, which part of the sort of like background in a lot in some of my games, you know, was the the organization that actually overthrew the former captain of the station and got rid of and brought in opened the place up for Philip to take over. And I thought, you know, it'd be interesting if they basically just it would make sense that they would look at the situation of having somebody that's already in the brig and say, well, you know what, we're handing this over to somebody else. Why don't we just let them decide what to do about them? And I thought that was a very interesting interplay. The idea that somebody's character, the first time we were going to meet them, was already going to be in the brig, already on the station in the brig, and for all intents and purposes, didn't know a ton about what happened in the subsequent takeover of the station while they were in the brig. And I remember that being kind of a fun thing right there. And we kind of expanded on and it was and Scott's interest in Captain Hurlig, the former captain, and tying into that really really gave me a direction to flesh some of this stuff out. With a lot of the main plot points that we started to see running throughout the first season, and definitely like gearing up in importance into the going into the second season. um and I remember having a number of conversations about that, like, do you remember the first time we talked about, like, Captain Hurlig and the relationship between Kib and, his former captain?
Somewhat. I remember that I that at one point it was established that I was entrusted to fix it, and he had gained massive amounts of trust in me back then. Hence is why he didn't shoot me in the face when I disobeyed him and just put me in the brig.
Uh,
Remember
I
that part?
well, I remember I kinda sprung, Hurlig as a, more present character, to some extent, because we talked about the list, the list that kinda set this whole thing, a lot of the gears in motion. And I remember doing a flashback scene and kind of springing that flashback scene on you to put Kib in in a moment where we kind of explained, expanded upon why Kib was in the brig and instead of been shot. That scene, that flashback scene where they were having the argument, and he threw Kib in the brig. And the thing that I've found really interesting about that is that you know Kib is still willing to go some distance for his former captain. That's sort of it, and that helped me sort of establish that maybe there was a little friendlier, maybe a little friendlier, like sort of like relationship the two of them had. Um, you know, um, and I think that was like one of the fun things about that was kind of developing that, like seeing the things that you were interested in, and sort of expanding upon them and doing things with it. And I know I made the list more important in order to bring in Death Arms and make his, because he had made a he had decided he had wanted to have a sort of antagonistic entrance to Kib. And I know you guys had a conversation about that, and we don't have Soul Demon here to talk about the conversations you guys had about it, but maybe you could tell expand upon like the conversations the two of you had about like his character coming in with that antagonistic sort of like vibe going on.
The
I
problem with
remember
being, go ahead.
when I remember when he wanted to make a character when we were making the initial character and the Hudikai, whatever it's called. My brain just forgot. And he
List
chose the bounty hunter.
Vanguard, yep,
Oh, the
Bounty Hunter
theme.
Vanguard.
When he chose
Oh,
the theme of
yep.
bounty hunter, I was then like, well, how long you like we would talk like how long you been with this character been doing bounty hunting for, and had he been a well-established bounty hunter or what? He was like, well, he's probably been doing it off and on here and there, and blah blah blah. I've been doing it a while. So then we kind of made that little thing. It was just kind of like, well, Kib's been in trouble, so maybe we could have where you have gotten a contract or something at some point to get Kib for some reason, and that's how we bring you in, I guess.
I remember
I
when
think
I
that
was. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. Oh, my brain thought of.
I I I remember having the conversation with Soul Demon about it, and I needed a pretty strong reason why I could bring him in and why I could actually have, in an antagonistic manner, but have him, turn because the intention was always to bring him in as a part of the characters, part of the regular cast, and what have you. So I needed something that would be strong enough that he'd be there for you, but something that gave the wiggle room for him to drop the contract. Um, and I felt like that list, which had started off as just being something you could get a little extra credits, being more important than all of that. And I kind of thought of it. I was like, we could tie that to what Captain Hurlig, because that was his list, and we can tie that to, what's going. I can tie that to a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. It's like he's been collecting this list, this blackmail list, and you know. Some of his peers probably know about it, and definitely people he's trying to blackmail would know about it. What's and sort of like push that narrative forward. And I felt like for any of the Savage Circle, the pirate captains, to hire a bounty hunter, they'd have to be able to justify hiring that bounty hunter instead of going after themselves. And they'd have to have a good reason that would, you know, fit with the crew. Because, pirates do have their own politics. And somebody who betrayed their crew and betrayed their captain in a time of need is generally kind of frowned upon. So, that made for a good thing, a good, reason. And I think it felt right that a pirate would string together some haphazard logic about he's with the people who's crunching. Um,
My bad.
so it's somebody who had, thrown in thrown in with a lot of the people who, were running the place he was, put the stink of, maybe being a snitch or a traitor on him, that would really like play well. With a pirate crew, that they'd probably be down with and be like, yeah, yeah, that guy's. So I figured, um, and with the fact that your character was in fact in the brig during the takeover, and that being something provable, that gave wiggle room for him to go back. And clearly, in my mind, Captain Dravovak wouldn't want it getting out that the whole reason he said he was putting a bounty on Kid was a farce. He wouldn't want his crew to find out, ahead of him getting the information he was looking for, that this is about a list, that it's not, really about traitor, treason and whatnot. It's about making some credits he maybe didn't want the rest of his crew to know about, at least not until he knew he could make them, or and that's at best. I still haven't decided if he just wanted to make credits behind the rest of his crew's back. But um, as far as it goes, so that kind of like pushed that farther down the line. Um, and, but we also had, and we've seen a lot of Kib stuff running pretty strong throughout like the first season. Everything to do with the list, the narrative, and sort of like its connection to the Amber Wreath, as we found out sort of in the later part of the season. But we have another character that player character that we haven't talked about the establishment of, and she's pretty important to the whole thing because she was a big part of the setup why there's a space station in the first place. Um, and
Really, who's
Chris,
that?
Chris, maybe you could talk to us about like developing Philip. What kind of thoughts you had in developing Philip Defoe, and sort of the discussions, like what you recall of our discussions. Sort of workshopping how we were going to get this from point A to point B, from just a concept to a game.
Well, she actually started out much more evil than she actually is now. Because our intent was to be just evil enough to become. Oh, I'm throwing stuff on the floor. To become a necrograph provider. It was this is an interesting way for us to make money, and then there had to be a reason, of course. So not Eoxian, Elabrian was an interesting choice to go with because they come from that sort of background where they're like, oh, you use dead bodies to make stuff? Okay. And then we had to have a reason for why I got stuck out in the middle of nowhere. Literally, he put us on a tin can with no shields. Mm. And 25 episodes later, I still can't afford shields. It's ridiculous. But
Well, now it's a wheel with no shields.
several wheels actually. But
Yeah.
we have layers. But dang it, Scott. Um, so we had to come up with that concept, and my thing is noble. No, not
Yeah.
noble. Yeah, noble. So I chose noble as my. Wow, I've forgotten all my Starfinder words, people. I'm sorry.
Theme.
Yes, that's
Theme.
the word. Yeah. So that gave us a reason for it to be, you know, I have an uncle that's higher in the mafia, or a grandfather in my case. Uh, and he managed to get me out of the trouble I was in, but they had to kick me way the fuck out of the area. And now, through a GM that I won't mention, I'm wanted in the core for stuff that I did outside the core.
Hmm.
Eh, well, you're not exactly.
Sorry, that was a sneeze. Now I'm just playing. I understand why it happened because we're playing a game in the future where there are consequences, and I get that, Scott. Um, but yeah, my next character is definitely gonna hate you, Scott. That's all I'm saying. Um, big enough to eat them. But so I am 8 foot tall, and there's one that I've had shoved down my throat. Normally, I have OCD about whatever race I'm playing, and for whatever reason, instead of making them the average height that they're supposed to be, I'm a giant, but not quite a giant. But it has allowed Jester to have many laughs at my expense, so I guess it works out. Um, so other than that, I play the character fairly well, I think. She, like I said, she was supposed to be a little more dark, but well, it's hard to start out at first or third level and be like, "I'm evil and you will do what I say." You have to pretend, and in pretending, sometimes you lose your edge.
Mm, um,
But what they seem to forget is there was a brief moment where Brian and I were both talking about the fact that the easiest thing to do with a person inside of the brig was to space them. And then we let them out. Now I have a bunch of troubles. I mean, we could have just left him in there till he starved. Eventually, that would have happened. Um,
There's been several threats against Kip of throwing him in the corpse recycler over the season.
well, yeah, but most of those were in the early episodes because there was more reason to throw you into the corpse recycler. You've become less frantic while still being your frantic self and a little more helpful throughout the season. You've come into your own. Thank goodness. But all my troubles are isekai.
well, I think I remember quite a bit, like in the early goings, so that trying to figure out how we were going to justify, this whole space station thing. You went with Noble for your character. I was like, okay, well, what's some trouble nobody wants to fight? What's some trouble that takes down anybody? And given what you're doing, and the fact that it's legal on Eox, nobody fucking dodges attacks, man. That's part of life. I was like, that's the only crime serious enough. That's the only department serious enough in most jurisdictions that even the worst of them and the most privileged of them know they're not going to fight them. So
At
I
least I didn't get VD.
you know, well, and I kind of felt like I kind of felt like like the whole connection with at first, like, the Grimbuckle Syndicate was kind of an easy excuse to hand over a space station to you. You know, they pulled favors through the nobility, and I really like using them as a sort of. I just sort of enjoy the idea of a criminal
Stifling
under
society.
well, a criminal underground, criminal undergrounds for people who are generally marginalized. And in most of these games, tieflings, because they're descended from fiendish creatures, are generally the most marginalized. They're also some of the most interesting characters in most systems that use them. But I liked the idea of having this criminal syndicate. And I felt like I also mechanically at the very beginning I needed to have some extra backup there because the organization Lichdom Corporation wasn't going to be able to wasn't going to be able to have the minimum, even at maximum, weren't going to have the minimum complement for a space station that size. So they needed a partner. And as it kind of went on, I gave a certain amount of like I kind of pulled that in a little bit, in the sense that obviously they were necessary from a narrative and mechanical level, but giving the option to join the Grimbuckle Syndicate was something I didn't hit on for a while. Um, but when I put that out there, I was fully prepared for a choice to join or not join. I actually was talking a little bit about this. There might have been a plot line where the syndicate just played nice until they were strong enough to, or had a plan in place to dump a whole bunch of blame or heat onto a Lichdom Corporation and then take the station from them. But that's not the plot line we went with because Philip joined the syndicate. Um, and we've kind of like sort of like leaned into that some. I know we like gave I expanded the background to include the idea that when Isig was just a young up and comer, that Philip's grandfather, who used to be in the criminal world, acted as sort of a mentor. And the space station is sort of like an old favor being called in. But that there is this longer standing relationship between Philip Defoe's family and the Grimbuckle Syndicate. Sort of gives added oomph to, hey, will you join the ranks? And it's kind of given a little extra for Philip to do and look after and be in charge of, expanding the idea of sort of a criminal empire kind of idea. And I've enjoyed some of our scenes with the Grimbuckle Syndicate and sort of the inner workings. Um, you know, and I know Philip has had some plans, and has been trying to make friends and allies in that, kind of like, you know, I feel like maybe there's some longer term plans going on there. And I'm interested to see where those go in the future. Um, like, uh, you know, what elements of like, without giving away too much, what elements of the Grimbuckle Syndicate, like, does Philip plan on, working with more going forward? Like, or, are we looking at the ground floor, hiring smugglers to move drugs and illegal weapons? Are we looking at more of securing political favors? Are we looking at more of, sort of co-opting other criminal organizations to do your bidding? Like, what is the kind of thing that what kinds of things might we expect to see from Philip, sort of in the position of being the boss, the syndicate's, resident boss in the Durelium frontier?
It's so hard to say since I have so much on my plate. Um, well, the syndicate is definitely something that we have to deal with. After all, I am trying to make warn my new friend. Um, right now, we have to finish at least talking to the guy that knows more about the list, and then find out whatever our $100,000 new friend is going to cost us. Kid. Um, and then I don't know. I like the ability to not have to do a bunch of stuff all by myself as far as that goes. This character wasn't really supposed to be a diplomat, but seems to do
Oh,
best at that.
uh,
I'm,
well,
it didn't help that, Kib started out going, "Hi, I'm the mechanic." And I went, "Oh, okay. Well, if you've been here for a year, I guess you can stay mechanic." Then finding out, months later, no, he's not a mechanic. He's an envoy. Who told you that? And I'm like, he did. And he's like, no, I didn't. And I'm like, yes, yes, you did. And he's like, no, I didn't. And that was how we got there. And that was when I found
technomancer.
out, whatever. Anyway, it still wasn't a mechanic.
And, well, I still trip over the idea of Kib as a technomancer sometimes too, because I'm used to technomancers taking like one of the taking an easy like offensive spell at first level, um, uh, and and Kib took a lot of utility stuff. So you know, I think
He was supposed to be helpful. I
yeah.
don't. That he's supposed to be like his previous employer. He was help making the space station continue to be repaired and fixed up. So a lot of his focus was helping others.
We have done more fixing up to the station since we got here in the last year and a half. No, 2 years. Last 2 years in game time than you did in your whole year and a half that you were there before us. Not
Well, he
only
kept
have we
getting attacked.
upgraded and fixed things, but we are actually like it's not just a place for pirates anymore. You can get a cheeseburger and a steak dinner, as well as gravy fries at your local Bort's. Bort's Booze and Bitches. It's food worth dying over. Um, sorry, I had to get the commercial in there somewhere. But and that was a big thing in the beginning was me trying to figure out how we could get a Bort's there. Just because Bort's is my favorite, fictional restaurant, dive bar, food chain. Um, but figured out a way to do it, so we got one. So far, it hasn't got us shut down or killed. So, in
Well,
fact, honestly, let's talk about the lightning dragons for a moment.
okay.
I thought they were going to be much more of a problem than they've actually been, which is good because
You
who
kind
wants
of
to
been,
fight the dragon?
you guys have actually kind of been gone for a little while, and you've had a lot of other things going on. There are some NPCs that haven't been around for a while because they have reason to be out in space for long periods. But
Yes. So the
we'll
Order
probably
of
we'll see them come
Savoy,
back.
I do love those guys.
That was another surprising, and you'll I have rarely run diplomacy and bluff and intimidate skills by the book, and I made it a point to do so this game. And the Order of Kavoy was a very interesting thing in that I didn't expect you guys to beat the DC to to move the needle on them to, and they were just going to stay neutral. But that one you actually crushed the DC on, so you actually did improve their general attitude towards you. Um,
And
you know
have
the
continued to do so since that point.
Well, and the idea that and I liked the idea of an order of Borai, knights that were out to protect the galaxy from evil undead. I thought that was a really cool, interesting idea. And I'm glad you guys thought so too. 'Cause I was like, is it just me, or is this cool, or is this something people are gonna like? Um, and I look forward to delving more into them as well.
Well, and the best part about that was is I chose them specifically because I looked around the room and you described the people that I saw that I might want to talk to, and I'm like, oh, a Barai. Perhaps they're from my home planet.
But I do like and the Order of Kavoy have their own secrets and stuff that are sort of going forward could become a thing.
Yeah.
Um, but you also have like they're not the only Borai you have that you've had to deal with. There's Father Karef and his
Oh,
Vestian
Zombie Joe.
prophecies. And via Zombie Joe, who at this point is not as important at this
Eh.
point. He hasn't been important
Oh
so far.
no. Both
Uh,
Skip and I enjoy Zombie Joe.
um,
Enough that
eh,
we can remember his name, but I can't
well,
remember my nightly friend's name
the actually,
without looking at the paper.
God damn it! No, I can.
See, you're like, I can't remember
I've
now
got.
either.
Well, I haven't had a need for him in a while because he's busy doing stuff. So he'll be back. Prellis. Uh,
Yeah, I got to it at the same time.
um, but but you've got like the whole thing with Father Karef and his Vestian prophecies. 999 is a circle. You guys have spent much of your downtime, you've spent much of Death Arm's downtime trying to find and get rid of people who are putting the graffiti up around the station for Father Karef's prophecies. Um, I love the idea that he's there, and that there because it just kind of goes to show that you live on the fringes. There's a lot of crazies out here, and a lot of sinister people, and a lot of people you can't tell which is which. And I like the
Well,
idea of what
the problem is
exactly.
I can't get rid of Father Karef without making other bearded folk angry. Like,
uh,
yes, yes, I realize you've told me several times, well, you guys could just kill him. I'm like, but that just makes him stronger, and I don't like that.
uh,
And Scott knows it. Scott's heard me rant.
I like the fact that it vexes you that I don't care if he lives or dies at this point. Um,
So your tone says a lot when you talk to me, and your tone says otherwise.
uh, the no the there's also been a number of pirate captains you've dealt with, and Captain Worthy. His presence will be felt a little bit more in season two.
Lieutenant Lemlin will
Uh,
definitely be felt more in season two.
I think one of the biggest things for me was, and I just told the guys this not too long ago. For me, I needed to. We didn't spend as much time on the station as we might have because I needed them to go out and piss people off. I needed them to go do things so people would be angry. There'd be at least some people who are angry enough to want to fuck with them, so that the stakes exist. We did establish the station itself to some degree as we went along, sort of like um, you know, we started off very basic. I started the characters at third level so they could have a first level organization and they get to run the station and have because the space station follows the average party level, a third level space station. Because believe it or not, I have built a first level space station, and
And
as
it sucks.
much it's it's really hard. It is not good for much. But
Hey, we
like
have cargo bays in space that have just enough oxygen. We won't die while we're there.
right? We have nothing here except a place to park our ship and the a place to just sort of like use as home base. Maybe we have a med bay, maybe. um, but so I put them in the back, their backs against the wall because I wanted the space station to be in bad shape, in disrepair. I wanted it to be a fixer upper, and I wanted to establish that it had been kind of a joke, that the existence of this place was a big joke and had been used by criminal elements. It had been used by vagrants. It had been used by, people who were just drifting from place to place, refugees, et cetera, et cetera. I kind of wanted it to feel like um, something that just really had a lot of work to be done. Something that was as much of a project as it was almost more of a project than an advantage at times. And so I started relatively low for that reason. Plus, if you're higher level you start, the fewer challenges and the shorter road you've gotten to the end of the campaign. Um, but we did make the party did make a number of changes to the station over the course. Obviously, I filled in some gaps with things like the Father Karaf and the people who listen to his sermons, but they also did other things. Talked about putting in the boards, booze, and bitches. We also had You also put in other stuff too. You know,
He's
like
a space Vegas.
yeah, yeah, you know, talk about the casino. We got like, what did you guys name the casino? Besmera's Den,
Yes, but Mary's
right?
Den.
Yeah, you know, and having a and you guys definitely had uh, the idea to put that on there from a fairly quick point. Like, I don't even remember when you guys first started talking about putting a casino in there. Like, I remember I pitched it as one of the
Before we
potential
hit
ideas
fourth
of
level.
what. Yeah, I was gonna say I remember originally I'd pitched it as one of the ideas of what you could do with the station, and make that the central theme. But you guys kind of added it nicely to what you guys were already doing. Um, and there's going to be more surprises. The station's going to be developed even further. There's going to be a time skip of several weeks, maybe a couple of months between the end of season 2 and the beginning of season 1. Um, I know they've got plans for what they're going to be adding in now, but we also added in. But the fact that they're going to add in certain things, they've talked about adding in a shopping center for half the season at least, and we've got two trading companies that want to have real estate in there. The
There are
Paper
others.
Leaf Tea Trading Company, and well, two major ones. The
Hmm.
Paper Leaf and the Gemfish Trade Consortium. It's on me to come up with a few more smaller
Eh,
ones.
as far as it goes, we can use at least one floor of that for diplomatic offices for the people that we have. Make them pay rent, and then they have a fucking spot.
Well, like as far as it goes,
But we'll
giving
talk about that more later.
yeah. Um, as far as it goes, so we introduced several elements that are sort of like now regular faces around or associated with the station.
Mm.
Of course, there's a representative for Paperleaf Tea Trading Company, the Jim Elf Zerk, and there's also the representative for the Gemfish Trade Consortium, and Valance, I think is his name. I'm sure I'll look at that. Um, he's
Valence.
established, yeah,
Valence.
Valence. Uh, Valence, who is a human. We've established them. We've established something of a rivalry, or at least intended rivalry from one side, anyway.
Well, in our
Um,
Shadow Fae.
And yeah, actually, yes. And that ties into nicely into the final scene of season 1. Um, we didn't talk much about like the Velquin Empire, like sort of like original people that they met, Count Lessab and Count Cerivia. They've been mostly absent through season one, because they sent Quindon Malone, their agent, to be sort of like their representative on the station. Uh, sort of like this trade deal going on, giving you guys some trade back and forth so for supplies you need for the station to keep things up and running. But there's also the and we saw Countess Cerivia die when her ship exploded, leaving leaving one of the planets in the Velquin system. Um, we haven't really talked much about what planet yet, although that'll definitely be a detail we will find out more of coming up in season two. Um, one of and the Count and the Countess they're unfriendly. They're doing business with the station because they always had the intention to, but they're kind of snobs. We established that they're like the two agents we know they have, Hesha, who seems to be like sort of their personal fix-it handy, person who does whatever is needed, and they're sort of like trade slash diplomatic agent, the Quindon Malone. And Hesha, whereas is the only one of them that is not a Svartalvar. And for those of you who don't know what a Svartalvar is, they're Shadow Fae. Um, they're they tend to they are have very Fae-like features. They're humanoid sized, or roughly human sized. But they're Shadow Fae. Hesha is a Kyle, which is a different kind of shadow humanoid creature. And we haven't really talked much about Velquin society and the placement of various peoples within it. But one could assume that uh, Hesha is in some way exceptional for her people, for her people. We established there's a war that's going to start happen that's going on that's starting up between the Velquin Empire and a empire of racist humans that we have only really heard back chatter about. They haven't made a direct appearance, although sort of like the effects of their culture, seeing and utilizing constructed life forms as slave labor, um, has been an impact that is felt. Philip made some decisions about that early on. Um, uh,
Yes,
and
yes, I did. I was like, well, racist, and no one showed up. So,
yeah,
but I mean, we are building starships. Well, once season two has actually started, we'll have started building starships for the Empire. So,
oh, well, so you'll be at least negotiating contract the contract anyway.
that we'd already had, but okay.
But the
No, I
um,
guess we just brought it up.
yeah, um, but like the Velquin Empire, and because the Velquin Empire is about to become more important, obviously the Garin we'll start seeing their presence more. Um, I left a lot of mystery boxes open and hinted at a lot of things out there because there are a lot of things that can be done in this frontier. But one thing that um, we have really traveled down the path because it's tied into Kibbs is uh, one of the most major power groups, the uh, the Amber Wreath. The Amber Wreath kind of politely snubbed, but snubbed nonetheless, the party at the beginning of the season as not being rich enough or important enough to join their ranks. And
Is that one of the people I made mad at the beginning?
no, you didn't make them mad. They just
Okay.
didn't think you guys were on their level, essentially. Like, you made other people mad. Um, but there's the Amber Wreath has played fairly prominently into sort of what's been going on in season one. Obviously, that's a plot line that is not resolved, and they will obviously still be a big part of the picture. Um, and those of you who watch Firestrike and have watched, those of you who've watched a number of the programs on this show, on this channel, and those of you who know a bit about like me gaming outside of the show, because I know some of our audience does, the um, there are a lot of concepts and ideas that I will take from other games that I really enjoyed, and I will co-opt them and adapt them for what I'm doing somewhere else. We first saw the Paperleaf Tea Trading Company in Firestrike is sort of a mysterious organization that they had a tie with, um, which people who view the channel might not know this dates back farther than that. I co-opted him into Starfinder because it was something I did as a player and really enjoyed in a campaign that is, long defunct at this point. Um, so I just sort of co-opted. But for a lot of and we saw the Grimbuckle Syndicate, or at least the beginnings thereof, in the Ballad of the Menagerie. For those of you who watched any of that, Crinval and Isig are already familiar features. And Isig has shown up in Firestrike. So I take ideas that I really like and I adapt them forward, if it's a campaign that is generally defunct and I still want to play with an idea. The Amber Wreath is one of those few factions, much like the Order of Kavoy, one of a handful of factions that I created specifically for this campaign. Um, and while we don't know much about them at this point, other than they're all rich, or at least the audience and the players don't know a whole lot about them, other than they're all really, really influential, powerful, wealthy, and rumored to be fairly hedonistic. We're going to start seeing more into we'll start getting some hints into their inner workings, their goals, their agendas, um, you know, their relationships with other factions in the Durelium frontier, what that means, um, various things going forward. I'm actually very excited about the Amber Wreath as an organization, as a faction within the narrative in the series and the fiction, and we'll get to meet more agents, more of their agents because they're becoming more like we know of Netrine, their figurehead, their leader and or figurehead, high ranking at the very least, with the title of the Cordial Hand. With her title being the Cordial Hand, we've seen her. We got a big reveal that Tira of the in the League of Helades, an Espricasa business magnate of his own right, is a member. We found out shortly before her demise, Cerivia was had paid her dues and was a member as well. We know they tried to court Bettina Klemlin, who is somebody we also saw in Firestrike um, as a character there. Um, and we're kind of moving her narrative, as it were. But she's been also mostly absent. But we saw at the very beginning that they were trying to court her for their organization. Um, so we know that they're established, and we know that they're powerful, and we know that they're rich, and we know that they've got their hands into some shady shit right now, and they've been running counter to the group for the time being, or at least people who want to be a part of them, and certainly they themselves would have an interest in a list of their agents that may have greater significance that we haven't really talked about um, a whole lot. Um, the whole Tarivia thing, that we're kind of following down, that is part of the Captain Hurlig quest line story going forward. But I think as far as it goes, I know the later stages of the season, I tried to build out the the frontier, like more than just the drage system, but the frontier itself. You know, adding the League of Helidis, the Verilax Concordance, and there will be more, places within the Durelium frontier that are going to be revealed in season two. Uh, some interesting stuff going down. Um, but as we've gone forward, Kib and bring the focus back to the player characters. Kib and like Philip, their relationship has sort of grown throughout season one. You made a bit of mention to it, like how do you guys sort of see that, like in terms of like how do your characters see each other and their general relationship and where it and sort of where it's going? How does that look with you guys?
Philip is a means to my end. Consider resources.
Oh, that was so cute. You're a pet I haven't decided to kill yet.
I figured as much as that one.
Uh,
Well,
and I
you
know that
thought
sounds
about it.
horrible. Don't get me wrong. Uh, Kib has been enjoyable and for the most part listens. And when it really comes down to it, somehow, through that thing we were talking about earlier, he's slightly better at engineering than I am until it comes down to certain things. For example, there's always someone extra that's watching him, who has grown smarter just recently, so it can make much more complex thought processes on whether Kib has to die or not.
Huh.
Uh, but as far as it goes, Kib is a unique tool that occasionally fucks me.
Yeah, I figured
Like
from the beginning nothing was
literally,
up with the kid.
the worst decision I made in the entire campaign, and I've made quite a few, is what do you think, Kib? And then he shoots the mob boss's daughter in the face. Ah,
What? They killed my cousin.
yes, and I'm paying 100 grand to get your cousin to come back. I realize I made you pay 10 grand of it, but you know it's. But as far as it goes, wow, just that is enough storyline for Justin to kill us in the first 5 episodes of season two. Hmm.
I like the well,
Sorry.
and Gormy started off as a way for me to antagonize Kib in a fight. Um,
Yeah, Gormy's
and
become important, much to your
um,
distress.
well, Gormy, well, I started making Gormy more important in and of itself. Like I knew going in that giving that big of giving that big of a jab, making it that personal was going to be something I was going to have to expand upon the character of Gormy. Um, the as it goes, that was one of those things where it's like, you guys, pissing people off gives me reason for people to want to come fuck with you, makes it more interesting. And technically, you guys aren't wanted for anything necessarily in the Pact Worlds other than your original charges of tax evasion, Philip. um, but there is a blame that is being cast by the League of Helidis that you were
Actually, it
sent.
was my grandfather that exiled us. He said if we
Oh,
came back, then bad things would happen.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was why we went to the Veskarium instead of the Eox, where it would have been easy for me to find someone that.
right. And he exiled you so he could clear up the whole tax evasion mess.
Right,
Um,
but I mean, statute of
the
limitations is 7 years. We're 5 years. Um, I can't prove that, but still.
But there's a well, uh, like you're not as far as the assassination, big air quotes on Clutchell. The League of Helladis is putting out the idea that you were a patsy being sent by by forces within Eoxian government, which were in turn being manipulated by the Pact Worlds, which were in turn being manipulated by economic forces. Basically, their claims are essentially their claims amount to an accusation that there is a political or economic reason that you came and killed Clutchell. Tourist Guild hasn't said anything on the matter, released any public statement on the matter himself. But the league has. The Council of Oligarchs at some point made some decision. Um, now, I think we'll find that there's probably a trade embargo in the League of Helladis against trade sanctions against Freewheel Station in the League of Helladis at this point.
Oh
But
no, not trade
no,
sanctions.
no one's to do business with this space with these people. Um, but there's a lot of things. There's some other like going on. You're other than the original tax evasion. There's not a warrant out for your arrest. Like there might be some people who want to question you and talk to you about the incident. Um, you know, to find out if there's any truth to the matter, because not the right hand doesn't always know where the left hand is doing when you deal with big bureaucracies. And if we think that the UN is a has a giant amount of bureaucracy, I can only imagine what kind of bureaucracy a system-wide government might have going on. Uh, so, but I think as it relates to you guys, um, you're probably going to be facing trade sanctions to start with. You're gonna have to look over your shoulder because there isn't a ton of reason why they wouldn't send ships, other than
Well,
you being protected by somebody else. Which currently there is the illusion of being protected by the Accord because they, use the station as a base of as a, sort of like a port of call. Um,
haha, haha.
haha, yes. Um, a port of call in their own right and whatnot. And, you know, eh, they'll probably want to feel out whether you have an actual, like, defensive agreement, contract signed with them or not before they make a move. Um, but it also, as it goes, like, where you guys are going, like, I feel like the season 2, we're probably going to focus a bit more on the station itself, or at least that's the hope. Um, I still want, be able to get out of the station and go do some other stuff here and there, but I want the station to be a bigger feature within the bigger, sort of like character
No,
within the
it's never
story.
gonna happen. You taught us that we could leave the station and never have to go back. Nah, I'm just kidding.
uh, a uh, a
Colombian
bigger
will run the
character with
station well, and if she attacks me when we get back, that's my bad. But we did make her the first general, so she's fine.
uh,
She gets paid so much more than Kid.
speaking of which, you guys have been slowly trying to expand. How many people do you have in Lichdom at this point?
Maxed out until we raised, and we got 2 more since then.
All right,
No, just
cool.
the one, just the one, because it's the guy that's currently on board the ship with us that's not really doing much except turning or pushing the button to turn on the engine. That's the only thing that guy has done because he is
Yeah.
unnamed.
Mm. Yeah, he's just
So
some guy, just some being that's there to do work. Um,
I figured he was definitely a Basque, but other than that,
so what? Well, you never know. Um, the I think going, I think like as far as season two goes, like kind of plans, uh, like do Kib and Philip Kib and Philip looking at for like their own trajectory, like Lichdom Corporation, like what is the sort of like going forward look like for you guys?
so here's the problem with Lichdom Corporation. 1/3 of it is gone. We could
Mm,
even say 2/3 of it are gone. And that part, while it works perfectly good, well as a background person at this point, doing the things that we need him to do within reason. Um, and don't get me wrong, I will continue to use the corpse recycler as both a intimidation bluff towards people when they try to fuck with us. But that part has less importance now. And while the syndicate is definitely something I have to deal with because I had to, go do the ritual and drink the drink and get diarrhea, um, kind of still want to go piss off the guys with the other space station that's like, don't come to our quadrant. But right now, the main things that we have to work on are getting the rest of the fucking stuff we need for the list so we can leverage the list against those who would betray us to gain vantage and favor. And then, well, we decided to be part of a war. We still have our whole thing with freeing the androids secretly now. And I still am definitely into that, and so is my girl, Clovia. Um, kind of want to go messing with the time dragon again, but I probably won't. See, what was the other thing we need to do, Kib?
I don't know.
Uh,
I'm going. My plan for the future is to find my captain. I
right,
still
but
believe he's
if we
alive.
finish the list, there's a decent chance that we find your captain.
Yeah, Kip still believes he's alive.
Right, and that's fine because as far as it goes, at this point we've had the conversation because you've lied to me twice and got. And the last time I said, I am more than happy to help you find your captain. Eh? Because it keeps you from trying to do things behind my back. Yes, yes, you're going to be completely like, I do it. And for the most part, you have to remember that it's me, Kib. Uh, as the character, not so much, but as the Chris, your chaos is what I crave because he didn't expect you to shoot her in the face. He didn't expect us to not choose the fact that we were going to just be like, all right, you take her and go left and we'll go right and everybody's happy. No, we didn't do any of that. I said, what do you want to do? And you're like, kill them all. And I'm like, well, and then she got shot. And I was like, damn it. And then she was dead instead of not mostly dead. And I was like, damn it. And then you were like, character moment. And it made complete sense. It's something I would have done if it had been my cousins. And so, in that version of the world, you were the one that's yelling at me right now about killing the mafia dude's daughter. So, it's all even and fair. But we're going to get the captain found if he's alive, get the list taken care of, becomes friends with Bettina Clemlin, and fucking slowly infiltrate the fucking Amber fucking Wreath for no other reason than to piss off that elf bitch. And because I'm slowly amassing the wealth we'll be needing to be required to be fucking married. So we're bringing back somebody from the dead, not necessarily somebody that want brought back from the dead, and then there's always options from that. She's gonna be pissed at us, but you're gonna go for that. Like, you're my cousin. It was my fault. You fucking died. I had to bring you back. Da 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 da. And then you'll cry. She'll forgive you. She'll still hate the world, and we'll have the first goth. Well, no, not the first. First gothiest Kai in my space station. And I don't know. We'll do some stuff. It'll be fun. As far as like my actual trajectory, working towards Shield, sir, which requires me to make many more friends so that I can eventually afford to have shields. And once I get shields, then we'll get a gun. And then I'll almost feel safe, even though I will know that there's always 12 ships that can blow through my shields at any time. But at least I have that one chance. But working my way through the slums, whether it be as, a member of the syndicate, or fucking building ships for one side of an army, or one side of a war rather than both or the other. Really, the beautiful thing about humans, not all humans, these humans, is they're racist, so we don't have to like them at all. We don't have to care, because no one amongst us is another human. Well, Ninbus. But he doesn't like racists either, so it's fine. Um, and then Scott has his own agenda, which is 50% secret for no reason, and the other 50% because he might do something with it. And I'm okay with that. It keeps me guessing. And on more than one occasion, have Scott and I in the real world about the fact that, there's going to come a time where it's going to be easier for me just to kill you and turn you in for the bounty. Unless we win first.
That's always a thought process in the back of Kib's mind, but he's still like, I'm loyal to the original captain.
Yes, but you're also gaining loyalty with me because I continue to prove myself as a fucking person that. And if I'm helping you find your captain, there's no reason for you not to be loyal to me. Therefore, I gain your loyalty through secondary means. But, yeah, I will help Kib along his journey to ensure that my journey continues to go. Though, it may force him to take skills when he levels again. At least one, so he can be like, oh yeah, I can try. God, I would love for you just to have one point in culture so you could be like, I do have a cousin on this planet. Because having 10,000 cousins makes life so much easier in space where there are 10,000 planets. And none of you really like each other, but you're family, so you help each other out.
Right.
And yeah, but past that, the fact that you are better at engineering than me makes me, go, huh, little bastard. But when it comes to space battle, which we know that eventually we will have one, um, I'll be better than you at that. And it'll be the one time I call you captain. Nah, I'm just kidding. Someone else. Hopefully, here in a few weeks of season 2, we'll have another player that can help us not just be the dynamic duo that we are.
Well,
And should we survive that long? If we die, I already have my next character planned out. He will run so much amok that he may try to take over the lightning dragon. Um, because he will bring out the dragon.
speaking of other players, we also had a couple of guest. We also had a couple of guest stars throughout the season 1. We had Sassy come in and play a gambler who,
Name I'm trying really hard to remember right now.
let's see, well, uh,
I felt
Pyre.
no need. Pirate, that's right. It was something simple. But yeah, Pyre was a lot
Pyre.
of fun.
Pyre was an Ifrit and a gambler, and was the only
and
person
could
I've seen
actually hit things.
and actually managed to the only person in Starfinder I have seen yet actively successfully disarm somebody. uh, and did so with quite a lot of flair. I love it. But we also got AL and Millicepts. AL played by AL played by Rogue Gray Fox, and Millicepts is the real Garza,
Esther.
right?
No,
Haster. I don't know
Esther.
why I get those two mixed up.
I don't know either,
Yeah,
but they're
the
both awesome. So,
uh,
and I would love for them to have more time for this game, but they're busy people because I would love to decide that it's just not worth it and free him so that he can go do it. Then that would take away from the story. But damn it. I made a point to say androids are people too, they have souls. And then they were like, "Oh yeah, this is my dude. I own him." And I'm like, "I want to start a fight with you right now. I want to surprise round you in the face, and then start and roll above 6 for my initiative, so that I might have a chance to win." Even though AL at the time would have been the one helping protect him, so I would have been fighting against two people at once. But it would have been a right cause to die for. So, but yeah,
and
I've enjoyed all of our, short-term people.
well, and Milliceps and AL are the ones who run the casino for you, so they're
That is
part of
correct.
the
Whenever they have time, they will come and have adventures with us. But their main job is being our managers for the casino.
and
And
they
we're gonna
are
have to come up with. Go ahead.
well, and they're also officially part of the Grimbuckle Syndicate too, which
That's true. They started as Grimbuckle.
hmm so they're and we'll see if we can't get some of our guest stars to make some appearances again. Do different things, and maybe see if we can't get the occasional odd other guest appearance going on as we go forward. Um,
Right. The club will be named Taladira and Males because they're the two other gods of luck. Well, one of them is luck. The other one is revelry or something like that. And then Lichdom Luxury Liner and Ship Design is the name of our actual like shipbuilding business. Because we wanted to appeal both to people that wanted war, as well as people that were willing to pay ridiculous amounts to have it be pretty. That was going to be one of our attempts to gain more favor with at least the secondary people of the wreath, the Amber Wreath. And it's also one of the reasons I want to go see Bettina, because I want her to have the first luxury ship.
well, there's plenty of good reasons to go see Bettina at this point.
Yes,
Um,
and we'll deal with those.
well,
But
she is mining metals and stuff, so raw materials. But
oh yeah,
in addition to the fact that she at least knows the members of the Amber Wreath. Oof. Hold on a second.
go ahead.
I had a fly that's bothering me. I don't know how it even got in here. Um,
It flew through this room for a while and then went back out.
I don't know how it got in the house at all. Usually, I don't have flies in here. But no, that's a nothing to do with Free Wheel Station. It's just to do with me batting a fly
I
away
don't
from my
know.
face.
It could be a drone from Free Will Station. We make those.
the Yeah, I think as far as it goes, like um, I'm very interested there. Um, for those of you out there, that are watching our sort of our fan base, such as it is, we
Yeah. Thank you, fans. We love you.
the we do appreciate everybody who watches. We really do. For those of you out there who haven't been privy to some of the behind the scenes, a little peek behind the curtain. Um, so I intended the last episode of the season to be very different than what it ended up, and there are some things that I've had to rework to be in the beginning of the next season. Some things that I definitely had to have at the end, and a lot of that was due to the decision to try to find a way to bring Gormy back as a Borai, um, which you know not exactly covered in the book as a mechanical thing that you can just do. Um, which is why they're being charged an ass load of money and have to meet all kinds of terms for the guy that this Dralic that's doing it for them. Uh, so there's like but the fact that they went to the Viscarium, which I had fully expected them to go back to the station, uh, changed the way I had to work some things. So there's some things you didn't get at the end of season one that you're going to get at the beginning of season two. So, you know,
And we apologize for that, but because reality changed, it
we
changed.
lost you. Yeah. So
Oh,
the,
I'm back. Can you hear me?
yeah, yeah, there you go. Um, but
My apologies.
but there, I think the best thing I can say is, as far as it goes, we started off with a space station being dropped into the hands of Philip Defoe and Dr. Kurad. Kib was already there, having worked for the former captain of the station, pirate captains, and they one of the first things they had to do was deal with a criminal organization called the Red Booters, who really didn't have any allies. There's kind of like the easy target there. We're not going to piss anybody off if we fuck these guys up. Um, they also got them their first load of cargo. They are utilizing the cargo system to some extent, which is fun and interesting. Um, they're as we kind of like went along, we saw the addition of death arms. We saw Dr. Kurad kind of go fade into the background. Death arms come in. The list became more important, and then we started traveling down the dual roads of the Grimbuckle Syndicate. Partnership and expanding into that, and we saw like the sort of chase to find out what the list that Captain Hurlig left behind means, how it can be used, what it's all about. Um, Setting up at the very end characters like Tyrus Skilled, setting up Sothki Marin's Datello. Although we didn't meet him personally, we know about him through his wealth and influence that he owns his own dome in one of the planets of Verilax Concordance. Um, we were kind of like introduced to the idea that the Verilax Concordance, they're psychics and other forms of magic that aren't technomancy are considered illegal there.
Well,
So,
and telepaths in general, which means
oh
the
yeah, yeah,
Shunta, like half of the races are like, no, you can't come here, which makes them kind of racist too.
a little bit,
Mm.
um, but
Like,
we'll see a
I
little
mean,
bit more into that.
it makes sense. People are like, well, I don't like it when you can read my mind. Most of us can't actually read your mind. We can talk to you in your mind.
Right, and
But yeah,
there's
it's one of those weird ones.
yeah, there's a lot going on to unpack there. And we know both the League and the League of Helidis and Verilax Concordance, heavy industry and lots of pollution. Um, Although there's something even stranger about the Verilax Concordance's pollution that may or may not, make its way into the story at some point. We'll just have to see. And there's also always the mystery on the far end of space. It's a place where nobody goes, where people don't come back from, and the few that do come back gibbering mad. And we actually met
Oh yeah, that
somebody
guy.
who came back gibbering mad.
Didn't we
Um,
give him to Abador Corp?
I don't remember. I don't remember. You might have.
That sounds like something I would have done after we decided that it was no longer working to just um, corpse recycler the vandals, and it became more fun to send them off to be reprogrammed by Abador Corp. That's actually way meaner.
well, there's but there's a mystery of what's going on at the far end of space too, which we
It's
haven't
true.
really delved into.
Well, and we
And why
haven't. Go ahead.
and we haven't really delved into why is there a time dragon in the drage system? What the fuck is she doing there?
Watching.
uh,
Time dragons do that. They're like, what's going on here? 4,000 years later. You know what? I've grown bored.
um,
Oh,
but
though, if we do talk to her again, I'm going to lean into that accent. She's going to hate my copper dragon even more.
yeah, probably. Um,
Probably.
but yeah,
But
there's so there's kind of a lot. Anybody who knows me knows I love world building and putting things like this together and uh, putting all these little hints and things out there um, is a lot of fun for me. Oh yeah, we should probably mention
Death
one
Arms?
other. We should probably well we've talked about Death Arms. We should probably mention one other NPC, one Doctor Oglehop, uh, who
Uh,
is currently functioning as the biohacker slash mystic. Um,
active member of the medical team.
yeah, he's sort of their backups while Doctor Kurad is indisposed for the time being. Anyway, um, he he's one of my favorite NPCs to
Oh,
roleplay. I
by the
like
way,
doing Doctor Oglehop.
Korad, my favorite moment with Korad was when he didn't believe that Ha does better when he encourages him. And we proved it 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
He would miss. He would miss. Say something to him. Fine. You're doing good. Ah, natural 20. See, I told you.
Uh, I do like the idea that Ha has its own personality too.
Thank you.
I I enjoy the fact that, and it's something that like a lot of like I've seen people play mechanics and play their drone with significantly less personality.
Mm,
Um, they're just the drone is just a tool. Um, and there is a argument for that, but there's also the argument for there's also
which is,
definitely that the drone is a limited AI. It's part of what a mechanic can
right.
do that other classes, no matter their technical abilities, can do. One thing that sets them apart is one of the things that sets them apart is they actually can create AI. It takes them all 20 levels to create true AI, but up until a certain point, their AI is at least a limited AI with a little bit more personality than just, you know, doing what they're always doing what they're told or whatever. Um, and just being a tool. Which if you're just going to play your drone as the thing that fires for you, then why not just fire a gun? It's like
Because he can do
firing
it
a
from
gun.
60 feet further
You
away
know,
than I can.
you know the if it's
But,
only you know there
hey,
it
you knew
doesn't
that I was
add
going to
anything
have a drone with
narratively.
personality
Oh
because
yeah,
I already know what he's going to be if I make it 20th level. I know his
right,
personality all the way up till then.
right.
And if I don't hate Isekai before the end of this, he will. Not necessarily. I mean, Kip could save his life or something.
I have a
Yeah.
feeling he probably doesn't like Kip. probably
Well,
below.
and the only reason that he in character doesn't like you is because you keep getting him shot at. Like in his mind, every battle that we've ever been in is your fault.
It
Uh,
makes sense.
but right
I mean,
now,
I
he's
didn't
like
see
a terrible
every.
2 year old. So that's why he lashes out at you from time to time. Though, I think he just hit like, he's smart now. Or smarter.
I don't know. A lot of things in the last couple of episodes, Kim's been like, "No, we're doing this because he manipulated things to be like, no, this is a good idea."
Oh, did you manipulate? Or did I just go along with it because that's what my character does?
Well,
Nah, I'm
in
just
Kim's
kidding.
mind, he manipulated y'all.
Well,
Yeah.
technically speaking, you had no reason to believe that when you guys went to the Broken Planet that you weren't going there for cargo.
No, but the second we got there, he started yelling stuff. That got him in trouble because I pay attention to those sort of things. They were yelling stuff, which gave me even more information than I needed to know. And then when I called him on it, even though it was technically a bluff check, he went ahead and told me everything that I didn't know so that I was no longer metaing. Because I try really hard not to. But sometimes I'm just like, damn it, I know stuff that I wish I'd turned off the earpiece for.
Um, but um, I do like that the characters kind of have. I like that Kib just has an agenda, and I like the fact um, that we're getting a lot. We're getting some mileage out of two characters, as it is, and hopefully
Thank you.
we'll
We
be able to
try.
add. Hopefully we'll be able to add to the cast as we go along. But at this point, so we're kind of getting towards the point where I'm not, like there's not as much ground to cover. So, but I do want to ask: is there, if your character had a theme song, this season for this season, what would it be? Or if there's a specific battle or situation that you felt like would have been done well with this as the back with a certain background track or theme song, what would that have been? Um, we'll start with you, Chris. Like if Philip had a theme song, what would it be? And if there's any other scenes that would have had a theme song that stood out to you, what would that be?
Hmm. As far as it goes, hard just to pick one song. So many songs go through my head. Um, that's too cliche. I don't know. Killing Time by Head PE.
Cool.
But as far as other scenes, I mean, I definitely had soundtracks going through my brain at the time we were doing them, but nothing sticks out right now. Like,
Um, Geez.
especially for like fight scenes when we're actually trying to kill things but failing. It goes between, mid-era punk to new metal from the late 1900s. Just depends.
Yeah. Hey,
Kib,
Scott.
what about you? Do you have a theme song picked out yet? We started talking about it like 2 hours ago.
I couldn't find anything. It just did. I was trying to think of stuff that's like, I have a plan, I care about my captain, and random things of it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense in his head.
Man,
I,
honestly, I assume most of your soundtrack, depending on depending on where it is fast tempoed fucking techno or electronica
Yeah,
even. Something that's got a super fucking funky beat that you can bounce out your out to.
yeah. Like
And then
when Kib works, he probably has like some sort of like fast paced style music because it helps him focus to fix things.
hmm,
I kind of feel like if there was a soundtrack for if I was gonna AMV season one and pick various moments and stuff, I actually kind of feel like um, Offspring's "You're Gonna Go Far, Kid" works for a lot of it for because one, it's fast tempo enough for all of the fight scenes, and for a lot of this first season, there was a lot of like manipulation, deception, and interplay. Things like Kib lying about the reasons to go to the broken planet, things like things like the Amber Wreath misrepresenting facts and things here and there. Like there was a lot of diplomacy where you guys kind of stretched the butter a bit thin to get what you wanted. And there were some failed checks as well too. And I kind of feel like
lots and lots of failed checks.
well, and I kind of feel like there is something in there to be said for your characters have been doing a bit of grifting. Like you've been doing some fighting and a little bit of grifting because you're asking people to support you with no tangible evidence that you're ever going to do anything important. But because people give you support, you're able to do a certain amount more than you would have otherwise.
Well,
And you've
we
kind of
have
grifted
turned
as
the tin
yeah.
can. We have turned the tin can into the hub of
Ah,
several systems because at this point we're going to be making ships. We have the casino. We'll have the space mall, which will provide not only basic needs on a grander scale,
oh,
so all the little planets can come up and buy fucking, what they need, and then
well,
go
through
back and do their thing.
yeah, through
And then,
actions. Sorry,
while
go
the
ahead.
club might not make us enough money for it to be like super awesome, mm, we can use that for all kinds of stuff too. And the office, we finally have inner fucking system communications. We'll be able to make long distance calls for a price.
Mhm. Well, and I feel like through actions and deeds, you guys have kind of started building this up and gained momentum, and I feel like that sort of encapsulates that.
Yes, and
The
like I
idea
said,
you guys
we are definitely trying to make ourselves important enough that people don't want to get rid of us.
are it was it show me how to lie. It's getting better all the time. Uh, turning all against one is an art that's hard to teach. Those kinds of things. Those are the kinds of things that you guys, or your enemies have engaged in throughout the season. So that I feel like that's kind of a pretty good a pretty good deal. Although I will say I did get tinges of Jackson Gamble's golden touch when Pyre was helping you guys deal with the red booters because just straight rolled really fucking well right off the damn bat. So it
Yeah.
kind and being a gambler, it sort of seemed to make sense. But uh, as far as it goes, um, I don't know. I think there was a lot of I think there's a lot of cool stuff to draw upon. I'm interested to see where things are going to go. I'm interested to see. Of course, everything we've planned and talked about here is subject to change, but there is a direction that everybody is looking towards and going towards. We'll see how the dice rolls and the action actually takes us down these paths, but. Um, I am very much looking forward to. I'm very much looking forward to the next season and expanding on a lot of this stuff. Um, is there anything else you guys want to discuss about season one, or anything you guys are specifically looking forward to in season two? Favorite NPC interactions you've had in season one, or favorite or NPC
Man,
reactions or actions you're looking to?
rolling well when I had to go visit Shorthorn. Happy because I tried so hard to be his friend the first time I met him. I'm like, oh, someone that's been through some shit. Ah, he's a prick. And I apparently made a bad impression on him. Wait, I made a better impression on him. Yay!
um,
And he doesn't even necessarily have to be important. I just want to be like sure that he's not the guy that's like fuck those guys. And honestly, this season I should definitely have to invite my half orc friend out. She hasn't been there. I have her racist dwarf on board.
yeah, yeah,
She kind of owes me a visit.
yep. Oscar, the orc. She the orc Grimbuckle boss of the Gitteron Authority,
Mm.
uh, who had to send you Dovry Forged core because she was making too much trouble.
Right. I'm pretty sure we could lobotomize
Dwarf
that dwarf and
Vanguard.
she'd be okay. I'm not going to, but I'm pretty sure we could. Basically,
But
just turn her into a barbarian because she wouldn't be able to think stuff. She'd just attack. Yeah, you're right. We should probably leave her bed. But anyway,
uh,
yeah, I say, unless Scott has anything else to add, I'm fine with ending here.
Like, okay, I just had random thought. The one part I kind of had fun with, um, when we had the two people captured and we were trying to intimidate them, be like, we're gonna throw you
Oh,
in the
that.
dwarf circle if you don't tell us what we want. And then they told us, and I still threw them in there. I just thought that was cool.
I was so annoyed at him for fucking biting his own tongue off. I was like, well, that's a GM kind of thing to do.
well, he
The part
didn't.
that was actually annoying is I was like, why did Death Arms let him bite his own tongue off? And I was like, oh yeah, it's Death Arms. That's why. It couldn't be helped. It's fine.
Yeah, but right on.
Right. Oh yeah, by the way, Brian, if you ever decide to watch this, we've killed like 16 people since you left. 16. Alright, I just thought I'd add that.
All right. Well,
Okay,
let's.
we both vote for Scott tonight.
Yeah, this is a retrospective, so
I know. That's why we can both vote for Scott. It's fine.
okay.
You get 0 bonus experience, but at least you got
Yay!
them.
All right.
Uh,
Well,
hello
this will
everybody.
be a
Tonight. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, this will be a little shorter than what we normally do, but it's just a season retrospective, so we'll get some sign-offs going.
Hello everybody. Tonight I played Philip Defoe, pretending to be myself while I talked in third person for this retrospective, telling you about things that happened in the past, things that we hope to happen in the future. And I really enjoy playing this game with these two guys. It's more fun if we have a couple extra people, but at the very least, Kib and I entertain ourselves for the most part. And even though you've heard me talk a little bit of trash on him, I wouldn't change Kib at all. So, with that in mind, on to Psychopathic.
Yeah, that's me. Yes. Normally I play Kid on this day, but today we did the retrospective and think about what we've done over the last year. And it was fun and entertaining. And technically, I'm not anything else at the moment until November gets here and we get Lance Barrier back, and then I'll be in that. And at that
Yay!
point, that's all I have.
On to the one and only Just a King.
All right. Well, I always do a little bit of. I always gotta talk about things that are coming out, like the upcoming or whatever, or get put out news. So we are going to take a week's hiatus next week as we prepare for season two. Give us a chance to give me a chance to get things together and give them a chance to sort of do a lot of the mechanical back end stuff and what have you, and be ready for season two going forward and what have you. Um, but with that said, um, I am the Just a King Zarat. You can catch me here on Monday nights for Freewheel Station. Uh, and, I hope you guys have been enjoying the show. I look forward to continuing to try to entertain people and what have you. So, with my grand imagination that I throw at these guys for them to run around and be crazy in. Um, but I think that's pretty much all we've got for tonight. So if we can get a bring out the dragon and we'll get out of here.
Bring out the
Bring out the
dragon.
dragon!
I love Sam Sam.